Fear. Fear attracts the fearful, the strong, the weak, the innocent, the corrupt. Fear. Fear is my ally. Darth Maul. Darth Maul, a Force-sensitive male, Dathomirian Zabrak, was a Dark Lord of the Sith who lived during the late years of the Galactic Republic and the early years of the Empire. Initially known as Maul and born a Dathomiri Night brother on Dathomir, he was handed over as an infant by his Night sister mother to the Sith Lord Darth Sidious. Sidious trained Maul in the dark side of the Force at a hidden facility on Mustafar, assisted by a droid with a split personality. Maul mastered lightsaber combat and Teräs Käsi, wielding a red-bladed saber staff. Although he was a Sith assassin rather than a full apprentice, Maul's existence violated the rule of two because Sidious was still apprenticed to the Moon Sith Lord Darth Plagueis. Plagueis, however, knew of Maul and supported Sidious's decision to train him, considering Maul expendable and useful for high-risk missions that would not compromise either Plagueis or Sidious if he failed. In 33 BBY, Maul received his first mission from Sidious, to disrupt the criminal organization Black Sun. Maul succeeded, delivering a significant blow to the group. In 32 BBY, Maul played a crucial role in the invasion of Naboo, an event orchestrated by Sidious, who was also Senator Palpatine of Naboo. The crisis aimed to remove Supreme Chancellor Finis Valorum, allowing Sidious to ascend to power and pave the way for Sith rule. After Queen Padme Amidala escaped the blockade, Maul tracked her to Tatooine, where he briefly dueled Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn, exposing the Sith's existence to the Jedi. Later on Naboo, Maul fought Jinn and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi. Although he killed Jinn, Maul was cut in half by Kenobi. Sidious quickly replaced Maul with Dooku, the former master of Jinn, who had fallen to the dark side and became Darth Tyrannus. Despite his severe injuries, Maul survived through sheer rage and escaped to Lotho Minor, where he lived for 12 years with fragmented memories and a spider-like lower half, feeding on rodents and descending into madness. Unbeknownst to Sidious and the Jedi, Mother Talzin of the Night Sisters kept an eye on Maul. In 20 BBY, during the Clone Wars, Talzin sent Maul's brother, Savage Opress, to find and bring Maul back to Dathomir. There, Talzin used dark magic to restore Maul physically and mentally. Maul vowed to reclaim his place in galactic history, starting with vengeance on Kenobi. Maul and Opress drew the Jedi's attention by massacring innocents on Raydonia, successfully luring Kenobi. Although Maul tortured Kenobi, the arrival of Asajj Ventress allowed Kenobi to escape. Maul and Opress rampaged across the Outer Rim, capturing the Republic and Jedi's attention. Maul rallied the Morjoni clans against the Rim Mining Company and attempted to recruit Wiki pirates from the Onaka gang. But Kenobi and Adi Gallia thwarted them. The brothers were found unconscious by Mandalorian Death Watch leader Pre Vizsla and his lieutenant Bo-Katan. They conspired to conquer Mandalore and establish a criminal empire with the Hutt Cartel, Black Sun, and the Pike Syndicate. After the Shadow Collective conquered Mandalore, Vizsla imprisoned Maul and Opress. Maul escaped, killed Vizsla in a duel, and declared himself the leader of the Death Watch. He furthered his revenge on Kenobi by killing Duchess Satine Kryze. However, this drew Sidious's attention, who killed Opress and captured Maul for his own purposes. Maul escaped with the help of his followers. Unbeknownst to Maul, Sidious and Count Dooku allowed his escape, hoping he would lead them to Mother Talzin. Maul's Shadow Collective fought several battles against the Separatists. After multiple defeats, Maul, aided by the Night Brothers and Talzin, captured Count Dooku and General Grievous on Ord Mantell. Escaping a Jedi strike force, Maul took Dooku to Dathomir, intending to sacrifice him to restore Talzin's full power. However, Grievous freed Dooku and Sidious arrived on Dathomir. While Talzin attacked Dooku with her magic, Sidious and Grievous overwhelmed her and Maul. Maul was dragged from the battle by his Mandalorians as Grievous killed Talzin. Maul seemingly died sometime later, only to be resurrected in 0 BBY by 3 prophets of the dark side to challenge Darth Vader as a worthier successor to Sidious. On Kalakar 6, Maul and Vader dueled, with Maul nearly victorious before being slain by Vader. Years after the Battle of Endor, Maul's remains were found by Iridonian scientist Drell Kampf, who preserved his brain in a Bacta tank and connected his consciousness to a solid-state hologram. Luke Skywalker intervened, removing Maul from the galaxy for good. Maul, who would become the notorious Darth Maul, was born on Dathomir to Kaisina, a human night sister of Mother Talzin's coven, and a Zabrak father who was killed following Maul's conception. By birth, Maul was a night brother, part of a clan of male Zabraks from Dathomir who served as warriors and slaves to the Night Sisters. Shortly after his birth, Maul underwent an initiation ritual, being immersed in a magical oily bath and covered in black and red tattoos. Later, these Night Brother markings were removed, leaving Maul with only red skin. Painful Sith tattoos were then applied by Darth Sidious to cleanse Maul's mind and demonstrate his full commitment to the dark side. Maul was blood brothers with feral and savage Oprus. Caecina wanted at least one of her sons to escape Talzin's control. Less than a year after Maul's birth, Caecina met Darth Sidious, the young Sith apprentice of Darth Plagueis, and begged him to save Maul from a Night Brother's life. Though initially reluctant, Sidious was persuaded by Maul's strong connection to the Force and took him. Maul spent his early years cared for by droids, particularly TDD-9, at a secret location on Mustafar. A year after taking Maul, Sidious received permission from his master to train him as an apprentice. Plagueis instructed Sidious not to teach Maul their most guarded secrets, training him as a Sith assassin rather than a Sith Lord. Maul, unaware of Sidious's true identity, referred to him only as Master Sidious. He endured harsh training, with mistakes severely punished and mercy met with cruelty. In one training session, Maul's anger allowed him to unconsciously force pull a staff, impressing Sidious. Sidious then took Maul to the wasteland planet of Tosti in the Atravis sector to teach him the ways of the Force. Testing him by telekinetically hurling rocks at him, Sidious goaded Maul into using his anger to throw them back. Sidious explained the nature of the Force and instructed Maul to hide his talents from those unlike them. Back on Mustafar, Sidious had TDD-9 chain Maul upside down over a vat of acid, challenging him to escape while lowering him into the acid. Sidious taught Maul about the history between the Jedi Order and the Sith, mentioning figures like Naga Sadow, Freeden Nad, Exar Kun, Ulic Qel-Droma, Darth Revan, Darth Malak, and Darth Bane. At the last moment, Maul freed himself and leapt to Sidious's side, beginning his deep-seated hatred for the Jedi. During another session on Tosta, Sidious gave Maul a training lightsaber to practice with before exchanging it for a real one, allowing Maul to easily cut down trees. On one occasion, Sidious and Maul, disguised as tourists, stood before the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Sidious, cloaking himself and Maul, pointed out individual Jedi, filling Maul with delight and whispering about the Jedi's obliviousness to their impending destruction. In 44 BBY, when Maul turned 10, Sidious sent him to the academy on Orsis to learn the skills of an assassin, but ordered him to avoid using the Force except for his heightened senses. Sidious, disguised as a blind businessman, brought Maul to the academy, posing him as a future bodyguard. Director Trezor, a Faline, and an old associate of Darth Plagueis, agreed to show Maul around. Maul quickly proved his prowess by defeating the Abyssin student Dalok, with such ferocity that he bit him on the nose. During a break from the academy, Maul trained on Megiddo, running up and down a mountain with superior balance. Expecting praise, he was instead thrown into a freezing lake by Sidious, who watched as Maul struggled, learning to turn fear into anger to survive. At the academy, Maul befriended Trezor's ward, Kilindi Matako, who showed him compassion and secretly advised him on survival tactics. Maul lied to Trezor about killing Chargrex with his hands, having actually used an electroshock net as Kilindi suggested. Maul made rivals of the Rhodians Fretch and Hubnuts during a sniping exercise and was later trained by Melch Krako, a former Mandalorian Death Watch member. Maul endured hits from a blaster during training, knowing that dodging them would reveal his Force abilities. One day, during training in a chasm with the Rhodians and Krako, Maul realized they were trying to kill him. Enraged, he used the Force to attack, injuring Fretch and Hubnuts before Trezor stopped him. Though furious at Maul's disobedience, Sidious acknowledged that the dark side's power was difficult to contain and warned of potential Jedi spies. Sidious promised Maul he might become his apprentice one day, then sparred with him, wounding him as a lesson. Maul suspected that Sidious and Trezor used Krako to test his ability to control his power under pressure. After recuperating, Maul prepared for the Gora rite of passage. He declined Kilindi's advice, confident in his abilities. Kilindi showed him scars from her Gora experience, and Deline wished him luck, hinting at a surprise they had planned for his return. By 37 BBY at 17, Maul had become a weapon of pure hatred, with a sense of honor toward worthy opponents. Despite his traumatic childhood, he felt filial loyalty to Sidious, never contemplating killing him until his final test. For his ultimate test, Sidious abandoned Maul on Hypori, where he survived alone while hunted by assassin droids. Maul hacked the ship's computer to discover their destination, leading to a memory wipe by the pilot droid. After a month, Sidious returned and dueled the weakened Maul, who quickly lost. Sidious revealed he had been training another apprentice, pushing Maul into a final act of defiance where he bit Sidious. Sidious then revealed it was a test, there was no other apprentice. Maul passed and was named Darth Maul, a Dark Lord of the Sith, and moved to a new home in the works on Coruscant. Maul went on numerous missions, instilling fear and killing enemies of the Sith. Despite his successes, he longed for victory over the Jedi. One of his earliest missions was to assassinate Jedi Master Ciolo Urmanka. Maul, initially overconfident, was bested by Manka but resolved to defeat him by creating a double-bladed lightsaber. He eventually killed Manka in a rematch. Before the invasion of Naboo, Maul, possibly under Sidious's orders, imprisoned the Umbaran Sly Moor, with Sidious later rescuing her to gain her allegiance. In 34 BBY, Maul forced Krya's merchants to sign a Trade Federation agreement but faced a rebellion. Reporting his failure to Sidious, he was nearly strangled via the Force. Sidious and Plagueis later provoked the Yin-Chori uprising to destabilize the Republic. Maul delivered a job offer to smuggler Vilmar Grak, who reluctantly agreed after Sidious threatened him. Grak supplied weapons to the Yin-Chori, who attacked the Republic and the Jedi, leading to the deaths of Jedi Naishan and Ebor Talk. Maul observed the Jedi Temple attack, eager to intervene but restrained by Sidious. After the crisis, Maul harshly criticized the Yin-Chori's tactics, believing he could have killed every Jedi present. Sidious reminded him that his title of Darth was due to loyalty, not physical accomplishments. Sidious kept Maul in reserve while dealing with Trade Federation Viceroy Newt Gunray, instructing Maul to familiarize himself with Dvala, key to bringing the Trade Federation into the Sith's grasp. Over time, Sidious informed Maul about Lomite Limited and Intergalactic Ore, two companies on Dvala. Lomite ore, a key component of transparasteel used in construction, was highly valuable. Lieutenant Governor Wilhuff Tarkin of Eriadu and the Seswena sector, secretly allied with Plagueis and Sidious, issued a challenge to these rival companies for a major contract. To control the ore's shipping and trade routes, the Trade Federation needed the companies to destroy each other, allowing Viceroy Gunray a position in the Trade Federation Directorate. Maul was puzzled by the Dark Lord's interest in the Nemoidians. Unable to hide his feelings from Sidious, Maul admitted he saw the Nemoidians as greedy, weak-willed, and unworthy, to which Sidious added that they were also duplicitous and sniveling. Despite this, the Sith had to involve these businessmen in their plan for galactic control. When Maul asked how Dvala would be delivered to the Trade Federation, Sidious replied that Maul would accomplish this task. Praising Maul's lightsaber skills and explaining the dark side's limitless power, Sidious took Maul's lightsaber with the Force, inspecting each blade. Though Sidious had suggested a double-bladed weapon years ago, he asked why Maul preferred it over a single-bladed lightsaber. Maul explained that it offered more options in offense and defense. Sidious approved but warned Maul not to reveal the Sith's existence prematurely, giving him a data card with target information. Before sending Maul to Dorvala, Sidious described the planet as vastly different from Coruscant, and anticipated Maul would find it intriguing. Sidious expected a report on the mission's success upon Maul's return. Arriving on Dorvala, Maul found the planet's conditions harsh. Lower gravity made him more graceful. There were more natural landscapes than urban areas. The air was humid, and the people lacked ambition. Intrigued and disappointed, Maul examined a six-legged fire flitter before releasing it. At a cantina, Maul used a mind trick on the bartender for privacy and pure water. Observing his surroundings through a mirror and the dark side, he noted he was the only Zabrak present. Disgusted by the gambling and lack of discipline, Maul extended his awareness and overheard a conversation about sabotage between Lomite Limited's security personnel. He noticed a disguised listening device and followed its beeping to 3 spies from Intergalactic Ore, likely responsible for the shuttle crash. Maul followed the LL employees to Patch Brute's elevated cube, hiding in the floor joists. He placed a recorder under a floorboard and listened as Brute planned to hire the Tomb clan to sabotage Intergal transport, aiming to win the ore contract race. Maul removed the recorder and thought about using both ends of his lightsaber to complete the mission. Maul studied LL's headquarters defenses for an hour, testing the sentries and beasts' reactions to thrown rocks. He jumped over the fence and avoided detection, finding all doors and windows locked. Checking the roof for sensors, he discovered monofilament chains in the skylights that would trigger an alarm if cut. He realized Patch Brute would have remote access to the central computer. Returning to Brute's unsecured dwelling, Maul found the drunken man sleeping. He used Brute's fingerprints to unlock the computer, accessing files on the Eriadu delivery. Maul altered the recorded conversation to implicate a Tomb clan member, framing Journal Arrant for planning unauthorized actions against Intergal. The Tombs offered to sabotage LL freighters for Intergal in exchange for payment. At lunchtime, Maul returned to the cantina, observing the same LL personnel and Intergal agents. He sent the flitter-disguised recording device to the agents' table and played the altered message, prompting them to report the news to their employer. Both companies sought the Tomb clan's services to sabotage each other, leading to the loss of most ore transport ships. Instead of watching the collision, Maul tracked the Tombs from their Dvala hideout to a secret base on Riom. He planted evidence in the pirates' former base to inform Bruit of their location anonymously. Maul waited in Dorvala's northern wastes for a day until Brute and Cabazan's combined forces arrived. They found the planted evidence and set off for Riom. Maul, eager for the upcoming battle, piloted his starship to the ice planet ahead of them. So far, the Tomb clan had likely hidden their interdictor ship in Riom's asteroid belt. Maul landed his ship a kilometer from their base without detection. He watched as the small mining force ambushed the Tombs. Aware that the Tomb's base had blast doors and mines, which Bruit and Cabazan didn't know about, Maul revealed himself amidst the snowy battle. The miners mistook him for a Tomb member and fired at him. Brute split his team, sending half to pursue Maul. Dodging blaster shots without using his lightsaber, Maul led them to the base's unguarded entrance and hid in a snowdrift. Once they entered, he followed to observe the battle. Although Sidious would have preferred the Tombs and miners to eliminate each other, Maul might need to finish off the victors. Maul anticipated Brute's forces would win. He observed the struggle, accurately predicting the next to fall. When the blast doors blew open, he respected Brute's courage and hoped he would survive. The miners eventually defeated the Tombs, leaving Brute, Cabazan, and 5 others. Maul considered letting the miners live, but knew Brute would investigate the tampered recording, potentially identifying him. Knowing Sidious wouldn't want his apprentice on the most wanted list, Maul had no choice. Maul ignited his lightsaber, drawing the miners' attention. The Rhodian fired at him, but was quickly killed by a deflected shot. Cabazan mistook Maul for a Jedi and tried to reason with him. Insulted, Maul advanced, killing Cabazan and the remaining security personnel with blaster deflections, telekinesis, and physical force. He left Brute for last. Brute correctly deduced Maul's involvement and demanded an explanation. Maul cryptically replied it was for a larger purpose, and force-choked Brute to death, feeling the miners deserved slow, painful deaths for their incompetence. Maul altered the recording to frame Brute and Cabazan for the sabotage, and left it in the base, ensuring it would reach Journal Arrant's office. After enjoying his solitary mission in the Dvala system, Maul returned to Coruscant and listened as Sidious contacted Viceroy Gunray. The deception succeeded. Lomite Limited merged with Intergal to form Dvala Mining, granting the Trade Federation control and Senate representation. Gunray secured a permanent directorate position. Sidious asked Maul if he trusted the Nemoidians now. Maul replied they were more frightened and therefore more obedient. Sidious agreed, emphasizing the importance of involving the Nemoidians. He instructed Maul to study the criminal syndicate Black Sun while continuing his training. Weeks later, Maul hoped to confront the Jedi during the Eriadu business, but Sidious denied his request, assigning him to review the DRK-1 Dark Eye probe droid schematics. Maul also worked on completing the assassin droid C-3PX, his Razalon FC-20 speeder bike Bloodfin, and perfecting his skill with the Sith Lanvarok. Maul was surprised that Sidious had revealed himself to Eru Matalis, leader of the Nebula Front, who had tried to assassinate Chancellor Valorum without Sidious's knowledge. Occasionally, Maul sensed an important mission related to Sidious's homeworld, Naboo. Sidious assigned Maul to infiltrate Coghive 7 prison as Jagannath, find arms dealer Iram Radiq, and procure a nuclear device for Radiq's enemy, the Bando Gora. Maul couldn't use his force powers to avoid compromising the mission. Undercover, Maul killed dangerous prisoners and monsters, including a Yuuzhan Vong warrior, a Wampa, a Deathspine Varactyl, an Aqualish informant, and Radiq's Wiki decoy. After a vision of fighting a doppelganger, Maul woke in the medbay. When Coghive 7 was attacked by Jabba Desiligic Tuur, Maul obtained the nuclear device by killing Radiq's clawbirds and was shot by Radiq before a boy named Yogan Truax intervened, killing Radiq. Maul then fought Kamari Vosa, Bando Gora's high priestess, their duel interrupted by a Sirox worm. Maul saved Vosa, and they escaped Coghive 7 with the device. Upon returning to Coruscant, Maul received a mission to disrupt Black Sun, eliminating all 9 Vigos and their leader. Given the scimitar, a heavily modified star courier, Maul was instructed by Sidious to prove his worth. Maul was warned that the Vigos had connections to the Trade Federation and suspected foul play at the Eriadu Trade Summit. Unbeknownst to Maul, Black Sun had been involved in an assassination attempt on Darth Plagueis. Maul's targets included Vigo Darnada and Morn, with the remaining Vigos on Roltier. He was warned about skilled foes, including Darnada's bodyguard Sinya, and Black Sun leader Alexei Garin's Night Sister bodyguard Miguela. Maul set off, activating the scimitar's cloaking shield as he flew to Coruscant's atmosphere. At Darnada's hideout, deep space demolition and removal, Maul posed as a killer seeking Black Sun membership after eliminating a Sullustan debtor. He killed everyone in Darnada's chamber, including Sinya, before sparring Asa Naga to contact the other Vigos. Maul spread rumors of internal conflict, blew up the space station, and killed Vigo Morn on Dark, forcing him to reveal the Vigos meeting on Roltier before ending his life. On Roltier, Maul deployed Dark Eye probe droids around Black Sun Fortress, reporting its findings to Sidious. Ordered to leave no survivors, Maul launched his attack, decimating the enforcers. He then faced the Vigos' bodyguards, killing them all, including Miguela, who recognized his Sith nature before he defeated her. Maul then killed Alexei Garin, who expressed disbelief that one man could destroy Black Sun. Maul explained the Sith's return, stating it was their time to control the galaxy. Maul returned to Coruscant, his wounds treated. Reporting to Sidious, he confirmed there were no survivors, although Ulth, Garin's retainer, escaped but didn't live long enough to reveal anything. Sidious reprimanded Maul for almost jeopardizing their plan by revealing the Sith's existence, but ordered him to train on Mustafar until further notice. Sidious later reported Maul's success and near blunder to Darth Plagueis. Plagueis dismissed Maul's slip, focusing on Black Sun's destruction and the Sith's unhindered plans. In 33 BBY, Maul honed his lightsaber skills against 3 droidekas at the Limerge building, slicing them apart within seconds. Watching from an observation room, Sidious expressed his approval. When asked if he wished to serve his master, Maul confirmed he did. Sidious then revealed a disturbance in the Force from an unknown Outer Rim planet, a potential threat to their grand plan due to the dark side surge it caused. If the Jedi sensed it, the Sith's presence could be compromised. It was Maul's task to find and eliminate the source of this disturbance. Arriving on the planet via the scimitar, Maul headed to a cantina, his senses less attuned than Sidious. Nevertheless, he found a Force-sensitive Drovian named Silas, a brute using the Force for financial gain and praise in a dueling ring. Maul was disgusted by such a waste of talent. As Silas gathered his winnings, pondering his future, Maul approached, suggesting this could be the end of Silas's journey. Maul projected a holomessage from Sidious, who offered Silas the chance to become his new apprentice by killing Maul. Alarmed and unnerved, Maul engaged Silas in a fight within a nullifier field that rendered energy weapons useless, forcing them into hand-to-hand combat. Initially, Silas gained the upper hand due to Maul's lack of focus. However, Maul remembered to channel his fear into anger, tapping into the dark side. He overpowered Silas, overloading the nullifier field, and as Silas begged for mercy, Maul declared his loyalty to Sidious and killed him with his lightsaber. Back on Coruscant, Sidious confirmed the ordeal was a test, never doubting Maul's success, which elevated him further. Later, Sidious summoned Maul again, informing him of Viceroy Newt Gunray's spies on Esselis. Bartok assassins had stolen 50 prototype Trade Federation Vulture droids and a hyperdrive engine, intending to frame the Federation. Sidious needed those vultures to conquer Brental and control major trade routes, but the Jedi's involvement required the Sith to act discreetly. Sidious gave Maul a data card to control the vultures via the Scimitar's computer. Maul's mission was to track down the Bartok freighter, retrieve or destroy the starfighters, and teach the Bartoks not to steal Federation property. Sidious advised leaving the clients alive to spread fear, letting Maul decide the Bartok's fate. With his full arsenal, Bloodfin, C-3PX, the Scimitar and Dark Eye probe droids, Maul set off for the Exile system. He scanned for ships, identifying a Bartok freighter bound for Korulag but deviating to Raltir. Maul planned to fake his capture to gain the Bartok's trust, bringing C-3PX along for the ruse. On Raltir, Maul cloaked the Scimitar and parked it in a ravine. Using electro-binoculars, he identified 3 turrets on the fortress roof and an open window for entry. Maul drove Bloodfin to the fortress, entered through the window, and was captured by a Bartok. Handcuffed and without his lightsaber, Maul saw the missing Vulture droids and a Bartok starfighter. He was led to a cell, while C-3PX was also captured. In his cell, Maul encountered an ITO interrogator droid, which he quickly disabled. He used the Force to unlock the door, escaping and killing 2 Bartok guards with their own weapons. After falling through a trapdoor, Maul neutralized more guards and avoided a dragon slug. He crossed a chasm, defeated a giant spider, and retrieved his lightsaber from a Bartok wielding it. Maul then interrogated the Bartok with truth serum, learning that Grudo the Hutt, angered by the Trade Federation's betrayal, had hired the Bartoks to steal the Vultures and hyperdrive to destroy the Korulag Academy. Maul killed the remaining Bartoks, planted a thermal detonator in their munitions room, and escaped as the fortress exploded. He destroyed the pursuing Bartoks with another detonator and drove to the Scimitar, where he killed the last guard. Setting course for Korulag, Maul found a stowaway Bartok on the Scimitar, which he defeated before arriving in Korulag's orbit. Maul intercepted Grudo's cruiser, using the Vulture droids to attack it. Grudo and his son, Unda, escaped to Korulag's surface. Maul then programmed the Vultures to return to a Trade Federation base and headed back to Raltir to retrieve C-3PX. Scanning the remains of the Bartok fortress, Maul found no trace of the droid and returned to Coruscant to report to Sidious. In 32 BY, Maul was on Mustafar sparring with 4 lethal training droids from Trang Robotics: Cudgel, Rapier, Chain and Hachette. After swiftly destroying them, he received a hologram message from Sidious. The Dark Lord informed him that Hath Monshar, the Trade Federation's deputy viceroy, and a crony of Gunray, had disappeared with a Sith Holocron containing sensitive information about the impending blockade of Naboo. Maul's mission was to locate Monshar and ensure he didn't share the information. If Monshar had already spoken, both he and anyone he talked to must be eliminated. Sidious provided Maul with Monshar's picture, a holonet password, and the knowledge that Monshar had an apartment south of Coruscant's Manarai Mountains. Meanwhile, outraged by the Galactic Senate's recent shipping taxation legislation, which threatened to impact both the galaxy's free trade zones and the Trade Federation, Viceroy Newt Gunray was somewhat reassured by Darth Sidious's confidence that Naboo's significance would ensure galactic interest in their planned blockade of the planet. Gunray was now ready to execute the Sith Lord's directive to seal off all trade with Naboo. However, due to recent threats and information breaches, including the Monshar Pavan Holocron incident and the Neimoidians' bungled handling of their secret droid army foundries on Eos and Alaris Prime, Darth Plagueis ordered Sidious to postpone the blockade until after Coruscant's political rally for Supreme Chancellor candidates at the Pelemian Orbital Facility. In the meantime, Maul arrived undetected in a rundown part of Galactic City, using the cloaking device on his Sith infiltrator Scimitar. He rode his speeder bike to the nearest Customs Bureau outpost, evading a police droid that attempted to pull him over. Maul lost the droid in the fog-covered lower levels and avoided further casualties to keep a low profile. At the Customs Bureau, Maul left his speeder in a parking lot and ignored the curious stares. He accessed a holonet terminal, searching for any recently arrived Neimoidians. Finding Monshar under an alias but with no debit transactions, Maul hacked into the security grid monitoring Coruscant spaceports. He spotted an image of a Nemoidian entering a tavern in the Crimson Corridor of the Zikri sector, and took an air taxi to avoid being seen on his speeder. In the tavern, the Baragwin bartender informed Maul that Monshar planned to sell sensitive information to Lorne Pavan, a Corellian information broker often accompanied by his protocol droid, I-5YQ. Since personal droids were uncommon in the Zikri corridor, finding Pavan would be easier. Maul realized that if Monshar had revealed anything about the Sith or the blockade to Pavan, both had to die. Leaving the tavern, Maul continued his hunt. Maul found Pavan's apartment and waited in the shadows until Pavan and I-5YQ left. He followed them to the Dewback Inn, using the Force to remain unnoticed. Inside, he saw Pavan meeting Monshar, guarded by the Trandoshan Gorth. Maul refrained from attacking, needing to know if others were involved. He planned to interrogate Monshar later. After Monshar left the inn, Maul tracked him to his penthouse in the Kaldani Spire's residential apartments, keeping an eye on Gorth. Despite a disquieting presence, Maul dismissed it as an urban predator. He infiltrated Monshar's room, killing Gorth and Monshar's 2 Quarren bodyguards. He then force-choked Monshar, who revealed he had spoken only to Pavan, and that Pavan was on his way to retrieve the Holocron. Sensing Monshar's truth, Maul beheaded him after mocking his cowardice. As Maul reached for the Holocron crystal, bounty hunter Mahui Lin, hired by the Trade Federation to capture Monshar alive, entered. Recognizing her as the presence he had sensed earlier, Maul telekinetically threw Gorth's blaster at her and evaded her blaster bolts. Lin, in desperation, prepared to launch a wrist rocket, but Maul escaped through the floor, leaving her to die by her own weapon. Cursing himself for underestimating Lin, Maul reported Monshar's death to Sidious via wristcom. When he mentioned forgetting the Holocron, Sidious ordered him to kill Pavan, retrieve the Holocron, and return immediately. Maul returned to Monshar's apartment, sneaking past a Coruscant security force officer and using the Force to learn that Pavan had already taken the Holocron. Maul then headed to Pavan's cubicle. Inside Pavan's apartment, Maul viewed a holomessage from Yanth the Hutt, a Black Sun Vigo interested in buying the Holocron. Maul knew Yanth owned the Tuscan Oasis nightclub in the Crimson Corridor. Arriving as the transaction was completed, Maul killed Yanth and his bodyguards, but missed Pavan and I-5YQ. Maul reappeared as Pavan and I-5YQ were rescued by Jedi Padawan Dasha Asant and her mentor, Weapons Master Anun Bondara. Maul pursued them, engaging Bondara in a duel that ended with Bondara sacrificing himself to allow his companions to escape by damaging Maul's speeder. Maul survived the explosion. Pavan and Dasha fled into Coruscant sewers, encountering and killing Chthons. While tracking them, Maul eliminated 9 Chthons, confirming their existence to Sidious. In an underground cavern, Maul faced a Tauzin, escaping it using a slashing Wampa move. Later, Dasha attempted to kill Maul by blowing up a warehouse, sacrificing herself. Believing Pavan and I-5YQ dead, Maul reported his success to Sidious. The Dark Lord, pleased, instructed Maul to rendezvous at the Polemian Orbital Facility, a space station above Coruscant, to deliver the Holocron discreetly. Maul took a taxi speeder to his ship, cloaked it, and launched. He landed the scimitar at a seldom-used docking bay on the space station, deactivated its life support and gravity systems, and floated towards the airlock. Unknown to Maul, Pavan, revived from carbonite by I-5, followed him using a Tauzin nodule to hide from the Force. Pavan attempted to kill Maul but only managed to stun him briefly. Maul, nearly failing Sidious catastrophically, had the Holocron taken from him. However, in a twist of fate, Pavan, fleeing Maul, delivered the crystal containing incriminating information about the Trade Federation's imminent blockade to Senator Palpatine. Plagueis later viewed this as a delivery by the dark side. With this political mind safely diffused, Sidious issued the blockade order to Gunray, who promptly warned the Republic that any attempt to break the embargo would be met with deadly force, and that if the new regulations were not rescinded, the Naboo populace would starve. Recognizing the volatile nature of the situation, Supreme Chancellor Valorum consulted the Jedi Council and arranged for 2 Jedi ambassadors to negotiate with the Trade Federation, which had launched the blockade in defiance of Republic law. Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi were selected. Valorum knew that any other Republic response would be bogged down by legislative procedure. This secretive collusion blindsided Plagueis and Sidious, who had believed, due to previous restrictions on the Chancellor's use of the Jedi Order, that neither the High Council nor Valorum would risk such a bold move. Both Sith Lords were aware of the pesky Jin Kenobi duo that had become a nemesis of the Nebula Front at Dvala, Asmeru, and Eriadu. In retaliation, the Dark Lords accelerated their plans, ordering the Trade Federation to kill the Jedi envoys and invade Naboo ahead of schedule. They reassured Gunray that the Republic would not intervene and that the Sith would make their actions legal. Queen Amidala would be forced to sign a treaty legitimizing the Neimoidian occupation and making Naboo and its plasma reserves property of the Federation. The grand plan required that Naboo be secured for annexation by the shipping cartel. Plagueis declared, "It is the will of the dark side that we finally reveal ourselves," to which Sidious concurred, saying, "I will see to it that Maul is ready." As soon as the invasion commenced, Sidious assigned Maul the task of testing the Royal Naboo Security Forces RNSF pilots and their N1 starfighters. 2 such fighters were escorting delegates from Naboo to Coruscant, and after they landed on a platform, Maul seized the chance to attack them with the scimitar's cannons, pinning them down. Lieutenant Gavin Sykes hurried to the delegates' rescue. Maul, aware of his master's intention to assess the RNSF's combat capabilities, launched airborne mines at Sykes, who deftly destroyed or evaded them. Sykes fired torpedoes at the scimitar, forcing Maul to maneuver out of the firefight. Nonetheless, Maul successfully completed his mission. A subsequent Senate investigation into this attack yielded no results. Shortly after, Maul intensified his training with a series of practice sessions against assassin droids. One particularly intense session with 3 highly lethal droids ended with Maul emerging victorious. However, his triumph was short-lived when Sidious unexpectedly arrived, telekinetically snatched Maul's saber staff, and chastised him for allowing himself to be caught off guard. Sidious then tested Maul's readiness, ultimately returning the lightsaber and leaving, satisfied that Maul had learned his lesson. A transmission from the Neimoidians revealed that the Jedi ambassadors and Queen Amidala had escaped Naboo's blockade. Furious, Sidious summoned Maul, declaring to the frightened Neimoidians that his apprentice would track down their lost ship. Maul relished the fear in Viceroy Newt Gunray and Settlement Officer Rune Harko's faces, realizing they now faced 2 Sith Lords. Maul edited a transmission originally made by Naboo Governor Sio Bibble into a distress signal, pleading for help against the Trade Federation's oppressive actions. This helped the Sith track the escaped Nubian starship to Tatooine. Sidious ordered Maul to confront the Jedi and return the Queen to Naboo to sign a treaty with the Trade Federation legitimizing the invasion. Maul departed Coruscant aboard the Scimitar. Upon arriving in Tatooine's orbit, he received a distress signal from a nearby space cruiser. Ignoring it, he focused on his mission until a Togorian pirate ship ambushed him. The pirates surrounded the Scimitar, intending to seize the sleek vessel. Maul, berating himself for being detected, knew he had to eliminate the pirates to maintain his mission's secrecy. Maul powered down the Scimitar and escaped in a small pod, evading detection by hugging the ship's hull. He infiltrated the pirate freighter, swiftly dispatching 2 Togorian warriors. Stealthily, he approached the bridge, where he observed the interaction between the crew and their captain. Maul then unleashed a lightning-fast attack, decimating the crew. He left the captain last, allowing him to witness the carnage before ending his life. Returning to the docking bay, Maul rigged the freighter's propulsion units to its proton torpedoes, ensuring its destruction. He reboarded the Scimitar, avoiding detection by the remaining pirates. Maul encountered Helatan, the largest Togorian, and fought him as he escaped the freighter. He managed to maneuver the Scimitar out of the bay before the freighter exploded, killing Helatan and the remaining pirates. Despite sustaining a leg injury, Maul continued his mission to Tatooine. After his encounter with the Togorian space pirates, Maul headed directly to Tatooine. Arriving at night outside the planet's most densely populated towns, he deployed his 3 Dark Eye probe droids, which were programmed with all necessary information to locate the Jedi and the Queen's ship. This strategy allowed Maul to remain with his ship and heal from his leg injury inflicted by the pirates. At dawn the following day, after tending to his injured leg, Maul encountered a group of at least 30 Tusken raiders wielding Gaddafi sticks. They had lured him from the scimitar by disguising their numbers with the tracks left by their banthas. Maul restrained himself from killing them, knowing that any dead sand people near his location would raise suspicions. To conserve his strength for the crucial encounter with the Jedi, he strategically retreated. His comlink's beeping alarm indicating the probe droid's success startled the Tusken Raiders and facilitated his escape. Maul soon discovered that a bearded Jedi Master, one of the Queen's protectors, had encountered and destroyed one of the probes near the Mos Espa Grand Arena. Maul followed the direction the Jedi took, which led him to the smuggling vessel Dusty Duck. There he found the Palawic smuggler Anissa Dim instead of the Queen, and promptly killed the innocent woman. One of the probe droids eventually reported locating the Naboo royal starship in the Zelric Draw, beyond the outskirts of Mos Espa. The third droid later reported spotting the same bearded Jedi leaving Mos Espa towards the Zelric Draw. Maul immediately took his bloodfin speeder and headed to the coordinates marked by the probes for the Queen's transport. Concealing himself in the Force to maintain the element of surprise, he reached the ship and sensed that the boy traveling with the Jedi was unusually strong in the Force. Without time to ponder its significance, Maul leapt from his speeder and engaged the Jedi with his lightsaber in its single-bladed configuration. The Jedi instructed the boy to run and tell the ship's crew to take off, which he did. This was the first time in months that Maul faced a Jedi Master in combat, and he was well prepared, viewing it as the next step in his Sith training. In the brief but intense duel, Maul sensed the Jedi tiring and believed he could kill him, using the pain from his leg injury to fuel his anger. However, thanks to the boys alerting the crew of the duel, the Jedi Master managed to jump onto the ship's lowered boarding ramp as it took off. Maul watched the ship disappear into space and deactivated his lightsaber. Tasting sand and blood in his mouth, he felt shame for failing to capture the Queen. Embracing the shame, he let it feed his anger and deepen his connection to the dark side, fueling his strength and power. He returned to the scimitar, transmitted his mission report to Coruscant, omitting details of the Togorian pirates and Tusken Raiders, and headed back to the Republic capital. Upon returning to the works, Maul feared severe punishment from Sidious for his failure. However, Sidious surprised him by not being angry. He asked Maul if he felt he could have defeated the Jedi if the latter hadn't fled, to which Maul confidently replied that he would have, given the Jedi's evident fatigue. Sidious revealed the Jedi's name as Qui-Gon Jinn, whom he considered stronger than his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. While pondering Sidious's calm reaction to his failed mission, Maul realized that despite his failure, the Jedi would bring Queen Amidala back to Coruscant to persuade the Senate to help liberate her planet. Sidious's words mirrored Maul's thoughts. His master informed him that the Queen and the Jedi had already arrived on Coruscant. Maul asked if he should seize the opportunity to kill the Jedi, but Sidious advised against it, preferring to keep the Jedi alive for other plans. Still feeling the sting of shame and anger for allowing the Jedi to escape, as well as outrage at Jinn's perceived lack of honor, Maul retreated to his quarters. He repeatedly thought of Qui-Gon Jinn's name to fuel his hatred, strength, and power in the dark side. Normally, names of his targets meant nothing to Maul, but this Jedi's name seemed worthy of inciting his ire. Only hours after arriving on Coruscant, Maul was summoned back to the work's strategy room. There he found Sidious just returning from the Senate Rotunda, shedding his guise as Palpatine to resume his Sith identity. With great satisfaction, Sidious explained that Queen Amidala had failed to convince Chancellor Valorum and the Senate to declare the Trade Federation blockade illegal or to act in Naboo's defense. Maul, surprised by his master's unusually cheerful demeanor, felt a sense of relief, as his mistakes on Tatooine seemed less significant while Sidious was distracted. Sidious correctly predicted that the Queen would return to Naboo, accompanied by the Jedi. He instructed Maul to hide in the shadows and listen as he contacted Viceroy Gunray with the good news. Sidious ordered Gunray to destroy the Queen once she landed on Naboo, declaring her no longer of any use to them. Upon learning that the Federation had completely secured the planet, Sidious expressed his pleasure and vowed to ensure that the Senate remained complacent. He informed Gunray that he was sending Maul to Naboo, a prospect that clearly unsettled the Neimoidian. As Sidious ended the transmission, he laughed triumphantly, knowing the Sith would soon have no further need for the Neimoidians. He ordered Maul to take command of the Federation forces on Naboo, ensuring the Neimoidians dealt decisively with the Queen and personally seeing to the annihilation of the two Jedi. Maul silently obeyed and left aboard the scimitar. En route to Naboo, Maul reflected on his mistakes on Tatooine, wondering what he might have done differently to succeed. As the scimitar entered Naboo's orbit with stealth generators online, Maul discovered that the hundreds of Trade Federation battleships had been reduced to just one Lucrehulk-class droid control ship, Vutun Pala. Angered by the Neimoidians' preoccupation with regaining profits rather than maintaining the blockade, Maul considered infiltrating and destroying the control ship to make Viceroy Gunray reconsider his strategy. Ultimately, he dismissed the idea and instead brought his cloaked infiltrator within firing range of the Vutun Pala and a few vulture droids before descending toward Naboo. Surveying Naboo's landscape, where detention centers in the cities held prisoners guarded by B-1 series battle droids, Maul landed the scimitar in a private hangar secured by Sidious, just outside Theed. Deploying his probe droids to survey the hangar, he then took the Bloodfin to the capital. There, he evaded droid patrols while studying their behavior, using the Force to create sounds across different parts of the city to test their limitations. He quickly identified the droids' design weaknesses but trusted his master's judgment regarding their role in the grand plan. Taking command of the Trade Federation's occupying droid army, Maul was disgusted by the idiocy and incompetence of the Neimoidian leaders. Their intense, albeit humorous, fear quickly became repulsive to him. However, Maul acknowledged that their fear was justified, given his efficient and ruthless elimination of their traitorous confederate, Hathmon Shah. Despite his disdain for the Neimoidians, who had more in common with the droids they commanded than with sentient beings, Maul understood the reasons for his contempt, especially after Viceroy Gunray reported the Federation's modest successes and numerous setbacks. These included the successful escape of Naboo resistance members with their new ally, Borvo the Hutt, the disabling of Com-4, the liberation of Slave Camp, the ambush of Bravo Squadron by Borvo, who was actually a Federation spy, and the destruction of a former Federation plasma mining camp. Despite these challenges, Maul continued with his mission as assigned by Sidious, commanding the droid army to search for the indigenous Gungans and eliminate them as a threat. Advised by 9, the battle droid commander under Gunray, Maul embarked on a search for the Gungans in Naboo's swamps. After a briefing from the Viceroy, 9 received a lead on the Gungans' location from a captured mariner from Heart Secure, who revealed the existence of a Gungan city called Relias, connected to the Gungan capital Oto Gunga via the Relias Straits. Without precise coordinates, the droid commander's forces established a forward observation base on the shore of a nearby marsh. They began scouting the area and were soon joined by Maul. At Maul's request, 9 showed him 4 Gungan prisoners captured while meeting with Naboo traders outside Moenia. To expedite the search for the Gungans, Maul ordered 9 to poison the marsh and drain the water if necessary to force the Gungans to the surface. Following Sidious's instructions, Maul traveled to the Summit Farm Blossom Winery to meet with Maris Magneta, former chief of the Royal Naboo Security Forces under King Ars Varuna. Varuna had contracted with an off-world mining company to survey the Gungan areas for their plasma reserves and mysteriously died after abdicating the throne to Amidala. Maul demanded information on the Gungan cities connected to Varuna's plasma survey. Magneta did not have precise locations but mentioned a Bothan surveyor named Laker who had studied the Gungan areas. Before leaving, Magneta sarcastically asked Maul to give her regards to the moon. Maul inquired who she meant. Surprised by Maul's ignorance, Magneta explained that a moon banker named Higo Damask had brokered the Naboo plasma mining deal with the Trade Federation, turning into Varuna's enemy. Damask had been in collusion with Senator Palpatine, Sidious's alter ego, for 2 decades and was likely assisting Palpatine's campaign for Supreme Chancellor. Both men were involved in the mysterious death of King Varuna and the rise of Queen Amidala, leading to the Federation's blockade. This revelation confused and troubled Maul, momentarily suspecting Damask might be a Sith Lord controlling Sidious. However, there was no time to ponder, and when Magneta ambushed Maul with her thugs, he killed them all with his bare hands. eliminating any trace of Palpatine's involvement in the blockade or Varuna's murder. Maul proceeded to Detention Camp 6 near Moenia, where Leica was imprisoned for attempting to escape Naboo. Maul promised safe passage off-world if Leica provided the locations of the Gungan cities. Leica agreed, sharing everything recorded in a data crystal, including the location of Relius and its governor, Bos Gan. He explained the challenge of finding Relius among many Gungan cities in Lake Paunga, which merged with Lianorm Swamp. Another entrance to Oto Gunga, the sacred place, was located at the northern end of Paunga Strait in the Gallo Mountains. Leica inquired if the Trade Federation army would assault the Gungan cities, warning of the Gungans' powerful standing army. King Varuna had planned to use the Naboo Royal Space Fighter Corps and their advanced N-1 starfighters to fight the Gungans and possibly attack the Trade Federation. Maul wondered if this might have been aimed against Damask himself, questioning if Damask was involved in the nuclear run on Sojourn Moon. After Leica confirmed Damask's role in paving Palpatine's way to the Chancellorship, Maul left with the data crystal, ensuring Leica he would honor their agreement, though uncertain if Sidious would uphold their Sith-bound contract. Returning to 9, the droid commander reported their unsuccessful attempts to drain the marsh, discovering it was replenished by vast underground water reserves. Maul provided the coordinates for Relius from the data crystal and ordered 9 to transmit them to the single trooper aerial platform patrols to saturate the city with depth charges. He then joined 9 on an SDST leading the army to Relius. During the journey, Maul hypothesized that Higo Damask might be a Sith Lord controlling Sidious. He also considered the possibility that Sidious was breaking the millennium-old Sith rule of 2 by taking his own apprentice while 2 Sith Lords still lived. Maul realized that Sidious saw him more as a lethal weapon than a true Sith Lord, raising questions about his role and the possibility of one of the 3 Sith Lords being eliminated. Despite these troubling revelations, Maul was determined to prove himself a true Sith. In the ensuing battle, Maul personally captured Bos Gan and used the Force to manipulate him into opening the gates of Relius, allowing Federation forces to access the Relius Channel. After eliminating the Gungan defenders, the troops advanced to the channel. The treacherous Relius Straits led to the larger Lake Paunga, where the Trade Federation established an outpost. 9 sent patrols to locate Gungan settlements on the mainland and islands. Resources from the land were used to supply Oto Gunga, so 9's forces destroyed the settlements and cut supply lines to the underwater city. The Gungans retaliated with a naval attack, but 9 repelled them and soon located Oto Gunga, a permeable hydrostatic bubble city like Relius. 9 ordered depth charges deployed. When no Gungan bodies surfaced, drone submersibles confirmed the Gungan capital city, led by boss Rugo Nas, had been abandoned. On Maul's orders, 9 eliminated remaining resistance and laid waste to much of the city. With the apparent defeat of the Gungans, Naboo was firmly under Trade Federation control. Soon after, 9 informed Maul that Amidala and the Jedi were returning. Knowing there was only one place they could plot their counter-offensive, the Gungan sacred place, Maul sped there on his bloodfin with his probe droids to eavesdrop on his enemy. After being updated by the Neimoidians about the situation in Theed, Maul startled them with the news that Queen Amidala was already on Naboo, a fact confirmed by a Federation officer's report of her starship being found abandoned in the vast Lianorm Swamp. The Sith promptly ordered the Neimoidians to heighten security measures. Later, as Maul, Newt Gunray and Rune Harko reported their findings to Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord suggested that Amidala was becoming too aggressive, but he pretended to be surprised at her foolishness in allying with the primitives of the swamps. Sidious was actually fully aware that Amidala would attempt to form an alliance with the Gungan Grand Army to reclaim her planet. He privately advised Maul to wait for the resistance to strike first. This will work to our advantage. A grand battle, after all, would justify the Trade Federation in retaliating. When Maul expressed concerns about the Jedi possibly having a plan of attack, Sidious reassured him by saying that engaging in planetary conflicts was forbidden for the Jedi, that they were only to serve as advisors and protectors, nothing more, and that even Qui-Gon Jinn would not violate that covenant. However, Maul knew better, having eavesdropped on the discussions at the so-called sacred place in the Gallo Mountains, where Amidala and the Gungans solidified their alliance and made their plans. What Sidious had not anticipated was Amidala's bold decision to engage in the conflict directly and personally, with the Jedi by her side to protect her. Trade Federation sensors and troops soon located the Jedi, along with their Naboo infiltrators, in the central hangar of Theed spaceport. Darth Maul was ready. He raced from the palace to confront and eliminate the Jedi in a battle he had already envisioned in his mind. He was under new, urgent orders from his master to eliminate them without fail. It was now imperative. There was no margin for error this time. The deaths of the Jedi would send a clear message to the Jedi High Council that the Sith had returned to exact their long-sworn vengeance, signaling that the days of their order were numbered. Finally. This was the moment the passionate Zabrak had waited and prepared for all his life. Maul felt that all of his experiences, knowledge, and instincts had converged on this day and this world for his ultimate test, to prove himself worthy as a true Sith. Focusing entirely on his Jedi prey, Maul vowed to stand over their dead bodies, having spilled their blood and sealed their fates. He relished the thought of laying their lightsabers at the feet of his master, whether that be Damask or Sidious, hoping thereafter to rule the galaxy by their side, having truly earned the title of Dark Lord of the Sith. In this supreme test on Naboo, this second brutal duel with his arch-enemy, but now against both Jin and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi, Maul demonstrated his true mastery of the lightsaber arts. A long and intense battle ensued, with Maul seemingly on the defensive, but in reality directing the fight to a location of his choosing, as he had earlier scouted the area and selected the site where the Jedi would meet their end. Drawing the Jedi out of the hangar and into Theed's main power generator, he engaged them on the reactor's high catwalks. Kicking Kenobi off the platform onto a lower catwalk, he turned to Jin, only to be knocked down himself. As Jin leapt down to deliver the killing blow, Maul kicked him in the face and quickly regained his footing. However, the Jedi Master delivered a flurry of attacks, driving Maul along the catwalk into the laser-walled security hallway protecting one of the exhaust shafts. Suddenly, the series of walls activated, separating Jin and Maul, as well as Kenobi, from his master. With the battle momentarily halted, the three took a moment to recover. Maul paced like a caged animal, Jin meditated, and Kenobi waited anxiously behind. Obi-Wan noted the ominous sensation of having his abilities in the Force somehow blunted, his use of the Force clouded by their Sith enemy. When the wall before him deactivated, Jin immediately attacked, driving Maul to the edge of the shaft. However, Maul managed to regain the offensive, while a frustrated Kenobi remained helpless behind the fifth and final laser wall. In the confined space around the shaft, Jin was unable to adequately counterattack, and it wasn't long before Maul found an opening to hit the Jedi Master in the face, hooking him under the chin with his weapon's long hilt, stunning Jin. Maul then quickly impaled Jin through the abdomen. Kenobi, still trapped behind a wall of energy, let out an anguished cry. His beloved master had been felled, unimaginably, by the crimson-bladed lightsaber of a vengeful, emergent Sith Lord. Turning to Kenobi, Maul once again awaited the laser wall's deactivation to release his prey. As soon as it did, the Jedi Padawan in his grief attacked viciously, momentarily catching Maul off guard and even managing to sever the Sith Lord's weapon in two. Discarding its non-functional lesser half, an enraged Maul unleashed a blinding flurry of counterattacks, driving Kenobi back. Suddenly, Maul Force pushed Obi-Wan into the reactor shaft. As Kenobi broke his fall by grasping an input nozzle, Maul kicked the Jedi Padawan's lightsaber into the reactor pit. Maul struck the edge of the pit's upper rim repeatedly with his lightsaber, sending sparks raining down on Kenobi, hoping to cause the Padawan to lose his grip. Relishing his triumphant moment, Maul restrained the impatience surging within him, eager to see the Jedi apprentice fall to his doom. Meanwhile, Kenobi used these moments to calm himself through the Force. Although Maul had disposed of his lightsaber, the Padawan remembered that Jin's weapon still lay by his fallen master's side, something the Zabrak, perhaps in his arrogance, had overlooked. Using the Force, Kenobi leaped out of the shaft and summoned the lightsaber to his hand. The Jedi Padawan landed behind the Sith after a mid-air turn, executing a blindingly fast horizontal slash that bisected Maul after he'd whirled in surprise to face Kenobi. Flinching in shock and pain, Maul fell silently backward into the shaft, his two halves separating. Darth Sidious later noted, Against all my teaching, he hesitated in order to revel in his triumph. Maul did not have enough time to parry the blow that must have been the last great surprise of his life. My worthy apprentice failed me in the end. As in his vanity and impatient hunger for victory, he had underestimated the resilient Jedi. Incredibly, Maul survived his defeat at Kenobi's hands. Fueled by seething hate and an indomitable will to live, Maul reached out with the Force and grabbed hold of an air vent to break his fall into the shaft's darkness. He continued his descent down the reactor shaft, landing in water. Eventually, his still conscious, though cauterized upper body was dumped into a container and taken to Lotho Minor. As he lay submerged, Maul finally fell into unconsciousness, cursing Kenobi. According to Darth Sidious, who learned of the Sith Jedi battle from Kenobi himself, while cloaked in his public persona of a newly elected Chancellor Palpatine, his prideful apprentice was defeated by his belief in his own invincibility. With Maul's knowledge of his enemy's plan, the Zabrak's failure was that he should have prevented the starships from taking off to destroy the orbital droid control ship before facing the Jedi. But his vanity and arrogance won him over, only to defeat him. His only focus was the Jedi. As far as Kenobi was concerned, Maul could have ended it quickly if he hadn't paused to gloat, kicking the Jedi's lightsaber contemptuously into the pit, pacing and snarling before him in arrogant, premature triumph. Hesitating to savor revenge, whether of a personal or collective nature, was his failing. If Maul found he was not able to dispatch the Jedi quickly, he should have turned his focus to dealing with the Queen, who, having survived the conflict, is another failure. Even so, Maul's failures were mental miscalculations, not physical ones. Sidious' apprentice, however, in laying bare his matchless prowess and skill, did instill fear into the Jedi that the Sith had returned. Maul did succeed in defeating Qui-Gon Jinn, a victory, however, that Sidious felt he really must claim for himself. Their triumph was, after all, the direct result of his own teaching and the caliber of training Sidious afforded Maul that made that defeat possible. Arriving at his destination on Lotho Minor, Maul awoke. He activated his lightsaber and carved his way out of the container, screaming with rage. He struggled to move through the junkyard world. Soon, he encountered insects the size of his arm and managed to crush one with his own left hand before using his teeth to rip its leg off. But as he began eating, the Sith Lord heard a scream coming from his right. A sly and mysterious anaconda named Morley was slithering away in fright from one of Lotho Minor's gigantic machines, the Fire Breather. Maul threw his lightsaber with the Force directly at the Fire Breather's head, piercing it through. The machine instantly fell to the ground, the fire from its mouth extinguished. His weapon returned to him, and Maul once again blacked out. Morley wrapped the Zabrak in his coils and brought him into the caves of the planet, which would eventually become his sanctuary. Maul reawakened and with all of his anger was able to use the Force to acquire a six-legged arachnid-like cybernetic apparatus to replace his lost lower body. For 12 years Maul's memories were lost and he was in a state of near madness, eating only the small animals that came to the cave, aided in obtaining shelter and sustenance only by Morley. However, the only thing he remembered was Obi-Wan Kenobi and how he took his legs. Maul's defeat was a setback for Darth Sidious, souring his triumph over his own master. But it was not a disaster. Within a year, Maul would be replaced with the former master of the late Jinn, Count Dooku. Given the Sith name Darth Tyrannus, Dooku was not only a trained warrior and duelist, but also a political idealist, exactly the traits Sidious needed to instigate the Clone Wars. An apparition of Maul later appeared to Kenobi's Padawan Anakin Skywalker in a crystal cave on Ilum, only a few years after the duel on Naboo. When Anakin went into a trance-like state, Darth Maul appeared, and Anakin immediately attacked him. After a furious lightsaber duel in which Maul taunted Anakin about Qui-Gon's death and about the boy's training lightsaber, Anakin won. But as real as he might have looked, this time Maul was merely a creation of the dark side. Mother Talzin, the leader of the Night Sisters, was the only one who knew Darth Maul was still alive and in exile somewhere in the Outer Rim. Around 21 BBY, over a decade after Maul's defeat, she gave his brother, Savage Opress, a special necklace to help locate him. Opress left, promising Talzin that he would return. In 20 BBY, Opress found Maul on Lotho Minor with the aid of the Night Sister talisman containing Maul's blood, and with the help of Morley, who saw Maul as his master. Betrayed by Maul and dumped into the recesses of Maul's cave, Oprus was attacked by Maul until he introduced himself as the Sith's brother. Maul, having lost his memories, was unaware of his kinship to Oprus and did not recognize his long-lost brother. When Oprus asked about Maul's legs, the amnesiac Zabrak remembered a Jedi was responsible. Cursing the Jedi and reciting bits of the Sith code, Maul realized he needed vengeance. Oprus presented him with the talisman from Talzin, helping Maul reclaim fragments of his lost memories. Oprus then brought Maul back to Dathomir for physical and psychological treatment by Mother Talzin. Mother Talzin used her magic to heal Maul's psychosis and transformed his spider-like cybernetic legs into a more humanoid form, using parts from destroyed super battle droids. After completing her work, she disappeared before Maul regained full consciousness. Maul felt that the Force was out of balance, and Oprus informed him that the Clone Wars had started. Disappointed that it had begun without him, Maul shared his story with Oprus, expressing his hatred for Obi-Wan Kenobi, now a member of the Jedi High Council. Oprus gave Maul a severed half of his old Sith lightsaber and suggested seeking revenge. Maul agreed, indicating that their revenge was just the beginning of greater schemes. Oprus and Maul traveled to Raydonia to slaughter innocent villagers to get Obi-Wan's attention. Maul sent a transmission to the Jedi Council, executing hostages and demanding Kenobi come to him. Kenobi, with the cautious approval of Yoda and Mace Windu, went alone to face the mysterious murderer. Maul waited in the burning village and confronted Kenobi upon his arrival. Kenobi was skeptical about whether this was the real Maul, which surprised the Sith Lord, who confirmed his identity with reminders of Naboo. Oprus then attacked Kenobi from behind, and Maul used the Force to snatch Kenobi's lightsaber, while Oprus knocked him unconscious. Rather than killing Kenobi immediately, Maul wanted to exact revenge through torture. He was dismayed that his old enemy had been promoted to Jedi Master despite being weak as ever. Kenobi's situation improved with the unexpected arrival of former Separatist Lieutenant Asajj Ventress, who had come to collect the bounty on Oprus. Ventress distracted the brothers long enough for Kenobi to recover, allowing the unlikely pair to stand against Maul and Oprus. A fierce lightsaber battle ensued in the cramped interior of the tanker's hold, with Kenobi and Ventress outmatched, despite their best efforts. They were forced to retreat to the ship's cockpit and eject themselves to safety in an escape pod. Despite his prey's escape, Maul remained calm, stating that he had waited many years for his revenge and could wait a little longer. Oprus warned that the Jedi would come after them, to which Maul replied that he was counting on it. Kenobi and Ventress flew the tanker's cockpit to Otor's hub, where they parted ways. Kenobi contacted the Jedi Council and relayed the events. The Jedi Masters decided that a task force should be immediately formed to capture the brothers. After their clash with Kenobi and Ventress above Raydonia, Maul and Oprus headed to Yellowblade's landing on the ice planet Orto Norway, where they visited a local cantina. There they were confronted by the Scourge gang after both sides attempted to recruit each other. But the Sith easily dispatched the thugs. Oprus allowed a Rodian with a severed right hand to escape as a warning, but Maul reminded him that to survive, they should leave no witnesses. Consequently, the brothers killed the remaining patrons in the cantina before departing. Sometime later, they were pursued by a team of Jedi led by Obi-Wan Kenobi and Plo Koon, which included Bru Junfan, Grotto, and Ko Solok. After encounters with these Jedi at Pleam's Nexus and Paklan, Maul and Savage killed all the Jedi except for Koon and Kenobi. When Junfan began to choke Maul, declaring his evil was at an end, Maul used his cybernetic legs to fatally wound Junfan. During one of their expeditions, Maul and Savage killed an exporter for the Rim Commercial Mining Company, prompting CEO Jaboag to place a bounty on Maul's head. After eliminating a team sent to retrieve him on Paklan, the brothers traveled to Murjone to kill Jaboag. Jedi Masters Judd and Salmara tracked them there and managed to capture Oprus, forcing Maul to flee with his damaged cybernetic legs. He was saved from death in the desert by the Murjoni. Shortly afterward, Maul returned to rescue his captive brother before Kenobi and his forces arrived on Murjone. He freed Oprus from his carbonite prison and killed Salmara, sparking revenge in her apprentice Dre. With Salmara dead and Dre no longer a threat, the brothers fled with the captive Jaboag. After the Gossam removed the bounty, they killed Jaboag by ejecting him from an airlock. Eventually, the Sith brothers' rampage brought them to a space station in the Cyblock system, controlled by the intergalactic banking clan. After defeating the station's droid guards, they discovered a credit coffer filled to the brim. Maul demonstrated his martial superiority by disarming Opress, earning his brother's respect. From then on, Maul referred to himself as Opress's master, assuming control of the traditional Benite dynamic. After looting the space station, the brothers traveled to Florum, where they bribed a squad of Wiki pirates to join them. Although some pirates joined, others questioned Maul and Opress's motives and were killed by the Sith as their leader, Hondo Ohnaka, watched. They were eventually tracked to Florum by Obi-Wan Kenobi and Adi Gallia, a Jedi High Council member. After a fierce duel in which Gallia was killed, the Sith brothers were lured into the base by Kenobi and continued their fight in an isolated passage. When Opress lost an arm, Maul decided to retreat. He discovered that Ohnaka's forces had reconciled with the renegade pirates and that his hired group had turned against him. They escaped, telekinetically throwing the Jedi shuttle at their pursuers as a distraction, though the escape cost Maul one of his artificial legs. They barely escaped a doomed ship after one of Ohnaka's pirates shot out its engines with a rocket launcher. The rest of the Jedi believed Maul and Opress were incinerated in the crash, though Obi-Wan suspected otherwise. Palpatine, with some reluctance from Yoda, suggested to Obi-Wan that they not pursue the Sith brothers further. As the Jedi departed, Palpatine smirked, hinting that he had future plans for Maul and Opress. Maul and Savage escaped Florum, but eventually passed out from lack of oxygen in their escape pod. Drifting aimlessly in deep space, they were found unconscious and barely alive by an advance force of Mandalorians led by former Governor Pre Vizsla. Discovering Maul's lightsaber, Vizsla chose not to kill them, unlike his lieutenant Bo-Katan Kryze, stating that if they were enemies of the Jedi, then they were his allies. Vizsla and his men took Maul and Savage back to their base on the planet Zanbar. On Zanbar, medical droids tended to Maul's injuries. Upon waking after the surgery, Maul, still groggy, only reacted when he saw the unconscious Savage next to him being fitted with a mechanical arm. Vizsla and Bo-Katan entered and began to interrogate Maul, threatening to kill Savage if Maul did not cooperate. Maul revealed that they were Sith Lords, which prompted Vizsla to question his connection to Count Dooku, also known as the Sith Lord Darth Tyrannus. Maul angrily clarified that he and Savage served no one but themselves, and that they were brothers, the true lords of the Sith. Satisfied, Vizsla inquired about Maul's intentions, to which Maul responded that he sought power and influence to gain revenge on the Jedi. He also revealed that Obi-Wan Kenobi was the Jedi responsible for their troubles. Vizsla then ordered the droids to complete the brothers' repairs. Later, Maul was taken to Vizsla's shelter and offered Cassius tea. Noticing the symbol on Vizsla's helmet, Maul inquired about it. Vizsla explained that it was the sign of Clan Vizsla and introduced himself and his warriors as the Death Watch, descendants of Mandalore's true warrior faith, which had been rejected by the pacifistic new Mandalorians now ruling Mandalore. Vizsla also recounted their exile from Mandalore after failing to overthrow Duchess Satine Kryze's government, and mused on the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi was responsible for their exile. Realizing their shared goal and common enemy, Maul proposed an alliance between himself, Savage, and the Death Watch, claiming it was the will of the Force. Bo-Katan rebuffed him, citing their past betrayal by a Sith and denigrating the Sith as weaker than the Jedi. Maul used the Force to choke her, and as the Mandalorians aimed their weapons at him, he asserted that their alliance would ensure Mandalore would be theirs, and they would eliminate all their enemies, including Kenobi and Dooku. Vizsla then sent Maul to see to Savage while the Mandalorians voted on the alliance. Savage awoke from his coma and with his new mechanical arm, destroyed the medical droids while Maul watched. As Savage grew agitated, Maul calmed him and explained their new situation. He insisted that the Mandalorians would be more useful than the pirates because they had honor, a trait Savage viewed as a weakness. Maul argued that their plans would be better served by the Mandalorians, and once they reclaimed Mandalore, they could use its resources to further their goals with the Death Watch under their command. Vizsla arrived to announce that the Death Watch had accepted the alliance. Maul convinced Pre Vizsla that they needed to recruit Black Sun to build an army. They traveled to Mustafar to recruit the Black Sun ruling council led by Zomit Grunsite, into their ranks. Recalling his days on Mustafar and how he had brought Black Sun into chaos 13 years prior, Maul made the offer. When the Falleen mocked and refused them, Oprus single-handedly wiped out the council, prompting their captain of the guard, Zaitan Moj, to join. Returning to their camp at Zanbar, the Pikes also declared their allegiance to the Sith brothers. Next, they traveled to Nal Hutta to persuade the Hutt ruling council to join them. Initially met with refusal and attacked by bounty hunters, Maul and Oprus retreated and launched an assault, killing almost everyone. After defeating the bounty hunters and guards, they captured Aruba the Hutt, who revealed that the other Hutts were at Jabba's palace on Tatooine. After killing Aruba, Jabba declared the Hutt's allegiance to the Sith brothers, leading Lom Pike to join them as well. Maul then named the group the Shadow Collective. The Shadow Collective devised a plan to undermine Duchess Satine by orchestrating attacks on the new Mandalorian capital city of Sundari, using the criminal elements of their alliance. During these attacks, the Death Watch would heroically intervene to drive them off. Maul counted on the treachery of Death Watch leaders Pre Vizsla and Bo-Katan and factored this into his strategy. Following the staged defeat of the crime syndicates attacking Sundari, Maul and Oprus were captured by the Death Watch, who had become the new leaders of the new Mandalorians. While imprisoned in the Sundari prison, Maul surmised that there might be other political prisoners besides Satine. After escaping their cell, Maul and Oprus sought to find a puppet ruler, killing any guards who tried to stop them. With a hint from Satine, Maul chose former Prime Minister Almec. Storming into the Sundari royal palace, Maul challenged Vizsla to an honorable death match, knowing the victor would gain the allegiance of Death Watch. After a lengthy and spectacular duel in the throne room, Maul emerged victorious by beheading Vizsla with his own weapon, which Maul then claimed. However, Maul's victory split the Death Watch in two, with Bo-Katan leading the Night Owls in defiance of Maul, while the other half submitted to his rule. Almec was reinstated as Prime Minister, but the true power rested solely with Maul. Shortly after his coup, Maul learned from Almec that Satine had attempted to escape and was sending a call for help to the Jedi. Knowing of Obi-Wan Kenobi's relationship with Satine, Maul realized she could serve as the perfect bait to lure Kenobi and exact his revenge. As Mandalore was officially neutral in the Clone Wars, Maul knew the Jedi Council couldn't officially sanction a rescue mission, predicting Kenobi would come alone. Kenobi infiltrated the palace and freed Satine, but Maul's Mandalorian super commandos pursued them to the ship Twilight, which Kenobi had borrowed from Anakin Skywalker. Maul and Oprus arrived on speeders and watched as the Twilight lifted off. Missiles from the commandos' jetpacks crippled the ship, forcing Kenobi and Satine to abandon it. Dazed from the crash, Kenobi prepared to fight Maul and Oprus, but was disarmed and suspended in midair by Maul, who then ordered the commandos to return the prisoners to the palace. In the throne room, Maul taunted Kenobi to embrace the dark side while holding Satine in a force grip. Kenobi refused, declaring that only the weak would succumb to the dark side. Maul insisted the dark side was more powerful, but Kenobi remained defiant. To prevent Maul from killing Satine, Kenobi pretended to sympathize by mentioning his visit to Maul's village on Dathomir, and suggesting that Maul's turn to the dark side wasn't his own choice, but was forced upon him by the Night Sisters. Infuriated, Maul rebuked Kenobi, reminding him of the decade of suffering he endured, and declaring his intention to make Kenobi share in his agony. Suspecting Maul would harm Satine, Kenobi tried to intervene but was subdued by the Mandalorian guards. Maul then activated the Darksaber and drove it into Satine's chest, smiling in satisfaction as Kenobi was forced to watch. After Satine's death, Maul, his revenge complete, ordered Kenobi to be taken to a cell to contemplate his loss. However, with the help of the Night Owls, Kenobi managed to escape. As the Night Owls began their assault, Darth Sidious, Maul's former Sith Master, arrived at the Sundari royal palace. Sidious had learned of Maul's survival and his apprenticeship of Opress from Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi's reports on their actions on Florum. Initially content to let Maul be a nuisance to the Jedi, Sidious found Maul's seizure of Mandalore too significant to ignore, deeming his former apprentice too dangerous to continue his reign of terror. Approaching the throne room, Maul sensed Sidious's dark presence and realized in horror that it was his former master. Sidious entered, telekinetically strangling the two guards at the entrance before confronting Maul. Maul knelt and proclaimed his actions were in hopes of returning to Sidious's side. But Sidious saw through the deception. Declaring Maul a rival, Sidious pinned both brothers against the windows to demonstrate his superior power. After releasing them, the three Sith drew their weapons, Sidious with dual blades to even the odds, and engaged in a vicious duel. Initially, Maul and Oprus managed to match Sidious's dueling skills, but the experienced Dark Lord soon gained the upper hand. He knocked down Oprus with a kick and stunned Maul with a force push. With Maul temporarily out of the fight, Sidious toyed with Oprus, dodging his clumsy strikes without activating his weapons. Maul regained consciousness just in time to see Sidious impale Oprus fatally with both blades. Maul rushed to his dying brother's side, ignoring Sidious as Night Sister magic bled from Oprus. With his last breath, Oprus expressed regret for his failure. Sidious laughed, quoting the rule of two and reminding Maul that he had been replaced. Enraged, Maul attacked his former master with the darksaber and his own weapon. Maul initially matched Sidious until they became locked in a blade lock. For a moment, Maul seemed to be winning, but Sidious gradually overpowered him, disarmed him, and telekinetically thrashed him, slamming him into several surfaces before dropping him at his feet. Badly wounded and disarmed, Maul weakly pleaded for mercy. Sidious stated he did not intend to kill Maul, but had other plans for him. Laughing sadistically, Sidious subjected Maul to torturous, non-lethal force lightning. Sidious intended to use Maul to draw Mother Talzin into the open for her defeat. After the duel on Mandalore, Sidious took Maul prisoner and brought him to a remote prison on Stygian. Almec's orders led to Maul's Death Watch forces pursuing Sidious's vessel to rescue their leader. Imprisoned, Maul endured Sith torture as Sidious reminded him of his plans. Count Dooku's arrival angered Maul, and Dooku, following Sidious's orders, sought information about the Shadow Collective and Maul's associates. Maul resisted Dooku's torture and refused to divulge any information. Two Death Watch members attacked the prison and rescued Maul, blowing a hole in the walls of his cell and rappelling down the mountain to escape aboard a Death Watch ship. Unbeknownst to Maul and Death Watch, the Sith had intended for Maul to escape to lead them to Mother Talzin. Maul and Death Watch regrouped with their forces on Zanbar. Maul spoke to Prime Minister Almec via hologram, who thanked Maul for freeing him from imprisonment. Reclaiming his darksaber, Maul promised the Mandalorians that the war they longed for was at hand. Soon after, Separatist forces under General Grievous attacked Zanbar. Despite heavy losses on both sides, Maul destroyed 4 of Grievous's Magna Guard droids before facing Grievous himself. Despite Maul's power, Grievous kicked him back during their blade lock. With most of his forces in ruins, Maul ordered a retreat. Grievous, following Dooku's orders, allowed Maul to escape, hoping he would seek Mother Talzin's help. As Dooku had foreseen, Maul reached out to Mother Talzin after departing from Zanbar, seeking her guidance through the Force. Appearing to him in a cloud of smoke, Talzin learned about Maul's escape from prison and his defeat on Zanbar. Understanding that Sidious intended to lure her into a trap, she instructed Maul to head to Ord Mantell, where the Black Sun had a base. There she directed him to rally his forces for another confrontation with the Separatists, this time aiming to capture Dooku and Grievous, something she believed Sidious would not anticipate. Talzin herself would not go to Ord Mantell, aware that she was a target for the Sith Lords. Upon arriving on Ord Mantell, Maul met with his Shadow Collective allies, including Zaitan Moj of Black Sun and members of the Pike Syndicate. He briefed them on the upcoming battle against the Separatists, who were being lured to Ord Mantell under the belief they could capture Maul. Despite some reservations from his allies, Maul was confident in their ability to trap the Separatist leaders. They swiftly planned their attack, which involved drawing the droid army into a specific point in Black Sun territory for the Shadow Collective forces to ambush. As preparations for battle were underway, a team of Night Brother warriors led by Brother Viscus arrived, sent by Mother Talzin to reinforce Maul's army. While Maul welcomed his fellow Night Brothers, the Separatists reached orbit and began bombarding Ord Mantell. Maul ordered his forces to commence their assault while instructing the Night Brothers to await further commands in the command center. Maul then moved to the Mandalorian warships to lead an assault on the Separatist fleet in orbit. As Maul's ships engaged General Grievous's command vessel, The Separatists landed their troop, including Count Dooku, on the planet, quickly overwhelming the Shadow Collective forces. Maul's ships attached themselves to Grievous's vessel, allowing Maul and his forces to board and fight their way to the bridge. They eliminated the battle droids defending Grievous, and Maul subdued the general, offering him a choice: disable the signal controlling the droids on the surface or die. Reluctantly, Grievous complied and was taken prisoner. On the surface, Dooku fought and killed the Night Brothers, but was eventually captured by the Shadow Collective after the droids were disabled. Following the battle, Maul contacted Mother Talzin to update her on the events. She promised that with Dooku and Grievous in their custody, they would soon capture Sidious as well and exact their revenge. Maul and his forces then evacuated Ord Mantell, leaving little trace of their presence, and relocated to a Mandalorian supply outpost hidden in an asteroid field. From the outpost, Maul contacted Darth Sidious to inform him of Dooku and Grievous's capture. Sidious, claiming no further use for them, ordered Maul to kill them. However, Maul had other plans. Grievous was imprisoned, and Maul attempted to persuade Dooku to join him. He argued that both had been betrayed by Sidious, suggesting they could become natural allies. Dooku, skeptical and aware that Talzin once tried to kill him, doubted the feasibility of challenging Sidious. Talzin then appeared through Night Sister magic, recounting her past alliance and betrayal by Sidious, who had taken Maul from her and was already seeking Dooku's replacement. As they discussed, a Jedi-led Republic assault team, including Kenobi and Mace Windu, attacked the supply outpost, having tracked the Shadow Collective from Ord Mantell. With their lives in peril, Dooku pretended to ally with Maul, while Grievous used the chaos to escape in an escape pod. Maul and Dooku fought the Jedi in a lightsaber duel, which ended when cast through a small explosive, incapacitating the Jedi and allowing the two Sith Lords to flee. After fleeing the outpost, Maul and his followers headed towards Dathomir. During their journey, Maul was contacted by Moj and the Pikes, who expressed concerns that Maul's vendetta was jeopardizing the Shadow Collective's plans. Maul reassured them that they would be compensated and that Sidious would be eliminated, paving the way for the Shadow Collective to control the galaxy. To maintain loyalty, Maul instructed Saxon to keep the Pikes and Black Sun in check. He also disclosed to Dooku that he was aware of Sidious's order for his apprentice to feign allegiance with Maul. Upon arriving on Dathomir, Maul was greeted by Brother Viscus, who had survived his encounter with Dooku on Ord Mantell. Viscus informed Maul that they were prepared for the next phase of their plan. Dooku was brought before Mother Talzin, who manifested in a cloud of smoke. Using her magic, Talzin began to draw Dooku's life force to restore her physical form, which required a sacrifice. Their ritual was interrupted by an explosion, heralding the arrival of Grievous and Sidious. Sidious reminded Maul that only his plan mattered. A lightsaber duel ensued, with Talzin taking control of Dooku's body to fight Sidious, while Maul battled Grievous. Sidious quickly gained the upper hand against Talzin. As Sidious bombarded her with Force lightning, Talzin released Dooku and fully materialized. Maul Force pushed Grievous out of the opening created by the explosion. Sidious continued his assault on Talzin, and Maul, desperate, pleaded with his mother to use his life force to grow stronger. Talzin insisted that Maul retreat as she held off Sidious. Using her powers, Talzin threw Maul from the fray, and he was dragged away by Kust and another Death Watch warrior. As they escaped, Maul witnessed Grievous return to fatally stab Talzin with his lightsabers. Maul fled Dathomir, which was under attack by the Separatists. Meanwhile, the Shadow Collective had also been defeated by Separatist forces. Despite Maul's escape, Sidious considered him eliminated as a rival to the Sith's future rule over the galaxy. Though no longer Sidious' apprentice, Darth Maul remained a symbol of fear and Sith power. During the Galactic Empire era, Maul's legacy was preserved by the holodroid Proxy, who incorporated Maul's appearance and fighting style into its training modules. Proxy was programmed to kill its master, Darth Vader's secret apprentice, codenamed Star Killer, using various Jedi modules to fulfill its primary directive. Despite numerous failed attempts, Proxy kept its Maul program hidden, saving it for the perfect opportunity to kill Starkiller. On a mission to Raxus Prime, Proxy interfaced with the planet's core system, which took control of the droid. Overwritten by the core, Proxy attacked Starkiller using various training modules, including Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin Skywalker, before revealing the Darth Maul program. Unaware of Maul's identity or Proxy's long-held secret, Starkiller was momentarily surprised by the Zabrak Sith's appearance, which mirrored Maul's look before his defeat on Naboo. Despite Proxy's mimicry of Maul's combat skills, Starkiller proved too powerful. Utilizing his mastery of the Force and his combat prowess, Starkiller ended the duel with a decisive strike through the droid's chest. With Proxy defeated, the Darth Maul visage faded, freeing the droid from the Core's control and, much to its horror, erasing the programming that compelled it to kill its master. Shortly before the Battle of Yavin, a dark side faction known as the Prophets of the Dark Side succeeded in resurrecting Darth Maul. The Prophets proclaimed that they had mastered techniques to reshape a being completely. To demonstrate their power and send a message to the lesser vassals of the Empire, they targeted Darth Vader, believing he could never fully realize his potential as a Sith Lord due to his past as a Jedi. Their plan was to lure Vader into a trap where Maul would kill him and reclaim his place at Sidious's side. On the volcanic moon Calacar 6, Vader anticipated intercepting a rebel courier with the stolen plans for the first Death Star. Instead, he encountered the resurrected Maul and the observing Dark Acolytes. Maul swiftly dealt with Vader's stormtrooper guards and engaged the armored Sith Lord in a duel. Although initially startled by seeing his predecessor alive, Vader suspected it was an imposter. Maul, however, sensed the lingering light side within Vader and refused to address him by his Sith name, calling him Anakin Skywalker. The duel seemed evenly matched until Vader severed Maul's saberstaff in two. Unlike their encounter on Naboo, both halves of Maul's weapon continued to function, allowing him to adopt the Jarkai fighting style. This high-level technique proved challenging for Vader, who struggled to counter Maul's attacks and had his helmet damaged in the process. As Maul prepared to deliver the killing blow, Vader summoned his fallen lightsaber, reversed the hilt, and activated it, piercing Maul through the waist. Maul, taken by surprise, wondered aloud what Vader could possibly despise enough to finish him. Vader coldly replied that he loathed himself. With Maul dead and left to be consumed by the lava, the observing acolytes were executed by Darth Sidious for their treachery. It remains unclear if the Maul Vader defeated was the actual resurrected Sith or an imposter created through Sith magic. Later, during the era of the New Republic, a deranged Iridonian scientist named Drell Kampf recovered Maul's brain and spinal cord, placing them in a specialized Bacta tank in his laboratory. Using solid-state holographic projection, Kampf manifested a hologram of Maul, giving him the ability to strike, but not be struck back. When Jedi Master Luke Skywalker arrived on Iridonia as an ambassador, he was attacked by the holographic Maul. Recognizing the Dark Warrior's ghostly nature, Skywalker used the Force to locate the source and discovered Kampf's hideout, declaring that artificially keeping Maul alive was causing an unnatural disturbance in the Force. Skywalker frightened Kampf away and shut down the life support system sustaining Maul's disembodied brain, finally bringing an end to the Sith Lord. Darth Maul was a being shaped by pure hatred and evil, the result of his harsh and severe training under Darth Sidious. Despite this, he was not entirely devoid of compassion, as he would grant quick and painless deaths to those he deemed worthy of respect. Maul was capable of forming emotional connections, feeling a sense of respect, admiration, and even attachment towards his master, possibly because he knew no other way of life. At the Orsis Academy, Maul formed bonds with several students, particularly Kalindi Matiko, and felt genuine pain when he betrayed them. Although Maul often commanded savage Opress and maintained a master-apprentice relationship, he genuinely cared for his brother. This was evident when he cried out in grief, when Kenobi severed Opress's arm, and showed profound sorrow when Sidious killed him. After Savage's death, Maul was enraged and attempted to kill Sidious to avenge his brother. Darth Sidious observed that Maul was obsessed with achieving victory at any cost, capable of enduring extreme pain to succeed. Brave yet prideful, Maul believed he could defeat the entire Jedi Order, including the Jedi High Council, in their own temple. Despite his hatred for the Jedi, his master cautioned him against pride. According to Sidious, Maul was a formidable warrior but not a one-being army. Maul often gloated, revealing his true identity and the survival of the Sith to his targets before killing them, much to his master's disapproval. Though loyal and obedient, Maul questioned his role in the Sith grand plan. Unaware of Darth Plagueis, he believed himself to be the second half of the Rule of Two, and saw himself as Sidious's eventual successor. However, he was aware of his limitations, having been trained primarily as an assassin without the advantage of a secret identity. Maul's distinct appearance made it nearly impossible for him to be seen in public without attracting attention. Despite his efforts to understand the galaxy, Maul had limited knowledge of how it truly functioned, recognizing the Jedi Order as the Sith's true enemy but not knowing how his order would exact vengeance against them. Maul relished combat but desired to evolve beyond being an assassin. Moving to Coruscant, he hoped for a more significant role but found his training unchanged. This led to fears about the Sith Order's future, particularly if something happened to Sidious. Shortly before his defeat by Kenobi, Maul guessed that his master answered to another master but was unable to change anything. Like his master, Maul disdained incompetent subordinates and certain aliens with perceived handicaps. Fighting the Togorian pirates above Tatooine, he considered them stupid, sloppy and lazy due to their greed, but acknowledged that the captain was smarter than his crew and that Helatan was the strongest and biggest pirate. At times, Maul wondered why Sidious worked with sniveling cowards like Viceroy Newt Gunray and the other Neimoidians. Sidious reminded him that the Neimoidians were essential to the Sith Grand Plan. Maul enjoyed intimidating the Neimoidians to keep them in line when he arrived to take command on Naboo. However, Maul respected other species, such as the Hutts. He was impressed by Bunda's plan to get revenge on both the Trade Federation and Korulag Academy. After foiling that scheme, Maul wondered if Hutts were afraid of anything. His question was answered years later when Aruba quivered before Savage Opress's blade. In battle, Maul was a ruthless and relentless enemy, driven by an arrogant urge for self-improvement. Ultimately, he failed to heed his master's warnings against overconfidence. His arrogance seemed justified when he sensed he could destroy Qui-Gon Jinn after seeing the aging Jedi using the Ataru fighting form, which would quickly tire him. However, he underestimated Obi-Wan Kenobi's resolve, leading to his downfall when he opened himself up to an attack from the young Padawan, an opponent he had tried to eliminate. The recent revelation of Sidious's secret master may have clouded his judgment. After his near-death experience on Naboo, Maul struggled to stay alive through his all-consuming hatred for the Jedi, losing his sanity in the process. By the time Savage Opress found him on Lotho Minor, Maul had been in a state of madness for roughly a decade. After being repaired by Mother Talzin, a bitter and enraged Maul targeted Kenobi for revenge. A scheming mastermind and uncompromising killer, Maul's personality, shaped by his Sith training, remained intact. He spared no hesitation or remorse for killing civilians, believing that murdering innocent lives was the quickest way to gain the Jedi's attention. No longer a silent opponent focused solely on martial prowess, Maul taunted Kenobi during their duel, utilizing Dun Mok to remind the Jedi Master of his failure to save Qui-Gon Jinn. Years of living in agony and exile also granted Maul a newfound sense of patience, something he never truly learned under Sidious's tutelage. However, while Maul became a more effective leader, his years of isolation nearly destroyed his emotional discipline. He never regained his taciturn bearing and could barely check his temper when the subject of Kenobi came up. Although not a politician like his former master, Maul was trained to determine individuals' motives. He used his political skills to manipulate the Mandalorian people and Death Watch into submitting to his rule. After regaining his strength, Maul discarded his loyalty to Sidious and sought revenge against both Sidious and Count Dooku, whom he disdainfully referred to as a Sith pretender. He was motivated by Sidious's betrayal, as pointed out by Bru Junfan. Despite this, Maul displayed shock and fear upon sensing his former master on Mandalore. He was not above begging for mercy in front of Sidious, as shown when he pleaded with him. Maul's entire childhood was spent being abused and tortured by Sidious, so he knew how sadistic his former master was. This may explain why he preferred to kill worthy opponents quickly, although it should be noted that Qui-Gon Jinn, one of the most powerful opponents Maul had faced, died slowly and painfully. This may have been because Maul was eager to engage Obi-Wan Kenobi and dismissed Jinn after inflicting a mortal wound. In the early stages of his training, under the relentless and personal tutelage of Darth Sidious, Darth Maul quickly proved to be an extraordinarily talented lightsaber duelist. His skills were impressive enough to gain the admiration of Darth Plagueis. By the time Maul became Sidious's true apprentice, he was already an exceptional lightsaber combatant, ranking among the greatest fighters in Sith history. He could easily massacre dozens of enemies and overpower seasoned Jedi masters. At 17, Maul nearly bested Sidious during a test on Hypori despite enduring a month of starvation, fatigue and pain, while Sidious was in peak condition. By 32 BBY, Sidious genuinely considered Maul's combat skills unmatched by any Jedi, possibly second only to his own. Even after his rehabilitation, Maul's fighting ability remained undiminished, as he bested Obi-Wan Kenobi and disciplined his brother Savage Opress. Maul's training focused intensively on the Juyo variant of Form 7, which Sidious taught him. His inner aggression amplified his use of this form, allowing him to overwhelm opponents with sheer tenacity. Despite his proficiency in Juyo and his skillful integration of force powers with his acrobatic fighting style, Maul's devotion to the physical focus of Form 7 initially hampered him. He sought purely physical victories, rather than employing the higher Sith tradition of Dunmok. However, by the time of the Clone Wars, Maul had outgrown this limitation, mastering the form to the extent that he could overwhelm even a Soresu master like Kenobi in many encounters. While Maul desired victory through superior skill, he achieved Dunmok by separating Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn on Naboo, silently taunting the Jedi Master and preying on the Padawan's sense of helplessness. After his rehabilitation on Dathomir, Maul used Dunmok during his rematch with Kenobi above Raydonia, and later taunted Master Judd on Murjone, forcing him to choose between facing Maul and saving the Murjoni from destruction. To master Juyo, Maul naturally had to become proficient in many forms of lightsaber combat. He was highly skilled in Form Verneeman, allowing him to incorporate force powers into his dueling style effectively. Although Jedi Battlemaster Chin Dralik believed a decade of study was required to master Form 6, Maul did not begin serious lightsaber training until he was 15, suggesting he mastered both Nieman and Juyo at an astonishing rate. He also showed proficiency in Form 4 Ataru, using it to dispatch a Trandoshan under Jabba's employ during his escape from Coghive 7, and his specialization in acrobatics likely stemmed from Form 4 training. This style, along with Nieman, enabled him to overcome multiple opponents as demonstrated many times. Maul also received training in Form 2 Makashi, sufficient for Sidious to note the elegance and precision in his dueling. He could employ one-handed strikes with the single blade of his saber staff, a function of Form 2. Despite his aggression and offense being prominent traits, Maul was also adept at defensive measures. He was skilled in Form 3 Soresu and Form V Shien, displaying the ability to deflect and redirect incoming blaster fire with ease, whether using a saber staff or a single lightsaber. He was even strong and skilled enough to defend himself against the laser blasts of a Jedi starfighter. In one instance, Maul used a reverse Shien grip to block and counterattack Obi-Wan Kenobi. He later assumed a Soresu opening stance to begin his duel with Sidious alongside Savage Opress, likely anticipating an attack from the reigning Dark Lord. When fighting multiple opponents, Maul extended the second blade of his lightsaber to form a saber staff, displaying superb skill with the weapon. Many Jedi of the era had never faced such a weapon or a practitioner skilled in its use, allowing Maul to catch his opponents by surprise. He constructed the weapon himself, using ancient plans stored within a Sith holocron. His lightsaber design was based on Darth Zana's weapon, which in turn developed from Exar Kun's original design. This choice may also have stemmed from his species' affinity for the Jaboka, a similar weapon. Maul's mastery of the saber staff was so complete that he could spin it with just one hand without injuring himself, a trick he may have learned from Sidious. Maul was equally capable of adapting his dueling style with tactical know-how, allowing him to outmaneuver opponents he could not defeat through martial prowess alone. He used this to beat such enemies into submission. For example, he studied the plasma refinery complex to prepare for his fight with Jinn and Kenobi, luring the Jedi to this location, separating them, and using the laser gates to secure his victory. This demonstrated an unusual display of Sokan, using the terrain to one's advantage in lightsaber combat. Maul also showed skill in mounted lightsaber combat, engaging multiple opponents while riding a speeder. Maul received extensive training in Jedi and quickly developed sufficient skill for even Darth Plagueis to acknowledge him as a master of the art. Although he rarely used dual-blade combat, viewing it as predictable, his mastery of it had greatly grown under Sidious's training. His dueling skills were displayed when he and Savage forced Sidious to draw both of his swords for the first time. Even alone, Maul proved a difficult challenge for Sidious. Taking up both his lightsaber and the darksaber of Pre-Vizsla against his former master, Maul displayed such mastery over Jedi that he almost fought on par with Sidious. He matched him blow for blow, forcing the Elder Sith into a brief backfoot. However, Maul was ultimately bested by Sidious, who overwhelmed him and forced his lightsabers apart once the hilts were close to Sidious's blades. Regardless, Maul put up a far more ferocious fight than Savage against Sidious, managing to avoid being killed by his own blades when the Dark Lord pushed him back in the blade lock. Maul's proficiency in lightsaber combat was later demonstrated when his resurrected form faced his successor Darth Vader on Kalakar 6. The prophets of the dark side observed that Maul and Vader appeared evenly matched in skill. Maul bypassed Vader's defenses, inflicting several wounds, whereas Vader could only keep up with the Zabrak. When Vader cut off the saber staff, Maul used the still-functioning components to gain the upper hand. While Vader had faced highly skilled dual-bladed combatants in the past, these experiences did not prepare him for a confrontation with someone of Maul's caliber. In the end, Maul was proven to be the superior swordsman and martial artist, and Vader only survived by employing a risky maneuver to deliver a critical blow to Maul. Maul was also extremely skilled in hand-to-hand combat, mastering the fighting style of Teräs Käsi, along with other deadly forms of martial arts he learned from Sidious and his time at the Orsis Academy. He displayed outstanding skill in combining unarmed combat with his lightsaber sequences, easily hitting opponents in close combat, even if they were expert duelists. This could also be applied with Ataru, allowing him to use his whole body as a weapon. He even landed a kick on Darth Sidious that forced him back. Using hand-to-hand combat, Maul outmatched Pre-Vizsla even when Vizsla was armed, without needing his lightsaber. From the day Maul was born, his mother Caecina sensed the Force was strong within him. Even Darth Sidious was impressed by the infant's strength in the Force, enough to choose him as his apprentice. Trained relentlessly by Darth Sidious himself, Maul honed his abilities and became a very powerful Force adept. While Sidious acknowledged Maul's strength, he underestimated just how strong Maul truly was. It wasn't until 12 years after Naboo that Sidious learned of Maul's remarkable survival. Maul's strength in the dark side kept him alive despite being bisected, his immense rage and hatred augmenting his power. Kenobi acknowledged Maul's considerable knowledge and power in the dark side, which Maul believed was a result of his training under Sidious. After his resurrection, Maul became even more powerful in the Force, a fact acknowledged by all his enemies. Sidious himself was impressed, believing that if Maul's power continued to grow, it might eventually rival his own. Maul's proficiency in various forms of telekinesis was exceptional. He could combine Force grip and Force choke with devastating effect, as seen when he easily broke Hathmonsha during interrogation and activated a set of door controls behind him with a flung piece of a wrecked droideka during his duel on Naboo. He could telekinetically pull weapons away from multiple opponents before finishing them off with his lightsaber. During the Clone Wars, Maul's telekinetic prowess grew considerably. He could perform delicate feats like pulling a section of a wall on Morjone upon his pursuers, pulling a several-ton Eta-class shuttle off a hill to trap Kenobi and Hondo's pirates, and subtly activating the control panel on his brother's carbonite block to free him and allow Opris to impale Jedi Master Salmara in the back. Maul even force-pushed Sidious himself during their duel when he caught him off guard. Maul's proficiency with Force choke allowed him to suffocate his foes while engaged in lightsaber combat and even use it in conjunction with telekinesis. He blasted Obi-Wan Kenobi away and blocked his airways into unconsciousness despite Kenobi's considerable strength in the Force. Maul easily strangled a Feline without looking and brutally twisted his head 180 degrees. He kept Satine Kryze in a Force choke while not looking and pulled her within saber range to kill her, using the draw closer maneuver, a Niemann technique. Maul was able to stop Trision's heart, slowly killing him. He also became adept at Force crush, perfecting its combination with telekinesis. His skill with the saber throw technique was considerable, using it to kill a Jedi Master on one occasion. Maul often incorporated force-based attacks into his lightsaber sequences, using force push or force grip on foes like Kenobi if given the chance. He was proficient with force speed, allowing him to move with blinding momentum, running up to 30 meters per second. His speed was such that even Darth Plagueis was astounded by it during one of Maul's training sessions. Despite Plagueis' assumptions, Maul had mastered the K-Tech meditation, effectively hiding his force signature even in close proximity to the Jedi Temple. He could use the mind trick, compelling a guard to commit suicide by detonating a bomb, killing himself and his fellow soldiers stationed at the mines on Morjone. Maul's telepathy was advanced enough to invade mines for information. He could use Force Sight to enhance his senses and utilize Battle Mind and Force Rage to enhance his fighting form. Maul demonstrated a resistance to Force Lightning, shrugging off a barrage unleashed by the Night Sister Miguela. However, Darth Sidious could still torture Maul with Force Lightning. Maul was skilled in combining Force talents with mechanics. He constructed much of his gear and gadgets in a secret facility on Coruscant, including his signature speeder bike, Bloodfin, and the Dark Eye Seeker droids. Using the Force skill Mechu Deru, Maul modified the protocol droid C-3PX into an assassin droid to guard his ship. Maul eventually learned a technique similar to a spell used by Darth Zana, a powerful Sith sorceress. When he encountered the bodyguard of Vigo Nerys who attempted to read his mind, Maul unleashed his spell, reducing the Iktochi to a silent, vegetative state. Maul was also capable of unleashing a powerful force scream which he could control to a remarkable degree. He managed to suppress a roar after accidentally cutting himself in the barracks at the Orsis Academy, and almost 2 decades later he let out a roar across the canyons moments after his reconstruction. He also used Force Scream against Ventress and Kenobi. Somehow Maul was alive on Tatooine again, shortly after the Battle of Hoth. The young Wade Vox sensed Maul's presence in the Force as a strange, prickling fear while preparing for combat in Jabba's demolition games. This feeling of impending dread stayed with him throughout the match, though Vox tried to shake it off after his narrow victory. Soon after, as Jabba floated over the Dune Sea, awaiting the next round of combat, he spotted Maul's speeder bike on the horizon. Jabba raised his arm to point at the distant object, and his suspicions were confirmed by Bib Fortuna, who informed his master that the object seemed to be a Sith contraption. Jabba let out a long, rumbling laugh and managed to convince Maul to participate in his demolition games, exploiting him as a wild card to gather even more ill-gotten gains. Maul fought against the other competitors on his Bloodfin, striking them down with its cannons and his double-bladed lightsaber. Darth Maul is a relentless champion of the dark side. His persistence and an ability to survive spread many rumors that the mysterious forces of the dark side just do not allow him to vanish, every time bringing him back from the brink of death.